we were a team, which I
Yeah.
think that's one of the problems that we have with that young people don't understand. I mean, I don't mean to sound old, but that it's everything in the marriage seems that it has to be 50-50. Do 50%, I do 50%. And that's such an error because it doesn't work like it's 100 and 100. And by the way, the more you give, the happier you're going to be in that relationship. Well, unless your spouse is a jerk. So then you need to, that's a different problem.
Dishonesty, disrespectful, discrimination, detached, dismissive. That's it. I'm done. Relationships can be messy. Are you having trouble with your personal or professional relationship? Not to worry. As a relationship therapist and coach for over 25 years, I have a lot to share. And so will my guest experts. Let's get smarter in our business and personal lives so we can be our best selves. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome, everyone, back to the Luella Young Show. Obviously, I am Luella Young, the host of the show. And today I have with me Ester Brooks. She is a Catholic educator dedicated to helping ordinary people deepen their faith and apply it to daily life. A very simple introduction, but a very important mission that she's on. So welcome, Ester. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you very much, Luella, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks. Okay, so I want to start. I always love introducing people by asking them, at 18, do you think you would have been doing what you're doing right now as a grandmother?
Yes. Well, the answer is no way.
No.
I grew up in Barcelona, Spain, in a very secular environment, in a very, I was a musician. I was a singer and a trumpet player. And at 18, I was touring the country, playing concerts and living, like they say, la vida loca.
Yes, exactly.
So, and of course, I was a very different person. I was just a child of the culture, and especially the Spanish, just very, very, very living with what your emotions and your feelings and tell you to do, just do it. And joy, mostly about my emotions, I would say. Not a lot of deep thinking, even though I was probably had my own ideas about things, but not deep thinking. I mean, young people, right? That's normal when we don't think very much about important things.
Yeah.
So yeah, the answer is no. If I would have been, I would have been like laughing on the floor.
Right. Yeah. So definitely a free spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. And still, I have to say, my family in Spain cannot believe it.
Wow.
I think they're pretty much in the same place. Like they took that road and I took a very different road. I think for me, it was a blessing to marry my husband and to come to the United States, where I live since 1992. Was a blessing. Especially the best thing that happened in my life is that I met people that were serious about their faith and that taught me what that meant. Yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, are you saying that you were not faith-based? Like, was your family?
No,
Oh,
I mean, we were ethnically Catholic.
Yeah.
Had traditions. We would celebrate Christmas. We would do things like that. But we did not go to mass or pray or read scriptures or anything like that. So yeah, no, my conversion to practicing seriously was after I had kids. So I moved to the States and got married, have kids. And later my kids were already like in elementary school. That's when I started to understand what it meant to practice your faith. And of course, before, when I was in Spain, I would make fun of people that practice their faith. I would thought they were stupid. I would thought they were all, fashion. They were like passé because I didn't understand. Because people in Spain, the environment where I grew up, nobody practiced. And there was actually kind of a negative attitude towards religion, as if it were something really bad for society. And of course, they always talked about the Crusades, and so that was my perspective. But so it took a long, long time. I was in my mid-40s before I understood what it meant, to what it meant, not only to practice your faith, but like the meaning of my life and the meaning why, the reason why I'm here, and all these important questions that we all need to ask ourselves at a certain point in our lives.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
age seems to lead you there, that's for sure,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, okay, so there's a romantic in all of us. So I of course I have to ask, how did you meet your husband?
Okay, so we were both musicians at the time. He
Oh,
used to play the French horn, I used to play the trumpet, and I was a singer too. And we met at a music festival in Dijon, in France, a summer festival. And we just met, we fell in love, and then, yeah, we tried to communicate after. I mean, I didn't speak English, he didn't speak Spanish, he's American. And but somehow we communicated. And then we had like a relationship, long distance relationship for a year or something, and then finally he moved to Barcelona where I was living. He got a job at the orchestra there, and that's the rest is history.
oh, okay. And I didn't even know his history. And by the way, guys, I'll mention his name is Arthur, and so he's the well-known author of well, I don't know the title of his well-known book, but it's on happiness.
Yeah, well, he has a few books on happiness, and one of them is called From Strength to Strength, which,
Mm.
and then the latest one is Live the Life, or Build the Life You Want. Sorry, I should.
Mm.
And so, yeah, and and he's working on his new book.
Okay.
Probably will come out next year early, and it's a book for to help, especially young people, to
Oh,
find
good.
meaning in their lives.
Great. Gosh, we need that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful. So
So
he
yeah,
moves. So anyway, now you're in Barcelona, and then you decided together that you're moving to the US.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm guessing okay, children happened when you were in the US? Did you start having children?
Yeah, so we met in 1988 and we got married in 91. We started having children in 98. So we were already in the States,
Yeah.
in,
Okay.
in the States, yes.
Okay, now did you work? Were you a musician? Like what did you yeah.
Yeah, I worked as a musician for
Okay.
years in Barcelona, and
Yeah.
mostly I did a little bit of classical music, and I did pop and studio and funky and
Mm.
bands and whatever. I was freelancing,
Yeah.
and I did a little bit of everything. But I quit. There was a point that I said, I don't want to work at night. I don't want to, like the schedule in Spain is crazy. So
Okay.
things in nightclubs, concerts start really late at night.
Oh yeah.
And so I was in my mid-20s, late 20s, and I was just saying, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Everybody's drunk. Nobody's
Mhm.
really listening to you. You're practicing, you're studying, you're trying to do a good job, and you end up, I mean, some gigs were good, people would listen, but mostly it was in nightclubs and places where like everybody was
Right.
drunk. So anyway, I mean, honestly, that's the truth. And so I started thinking, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So then I started teaching music in elementary school and private class, etc. But my husband at the time was with the symphony orchestra in Barcelona, and he
Mm.
kept his work as a musician, and I started teaching. And actually, I went back to school. I had not finished my high school.
Wow.
So yeah, I did it by correspondence in my late
Yeah.
20s. Yeah. And so I started studying. Then I realized that I really like math, which of course how do you say that in English? I dropped out of high school.
Yeah, yeah. I was dropout. Yeah.
Dropped out of high
Yeah.
school when I was 15 or 16, so I could go on tour with my
Oh,
band. So yeah, my mother was very happy about that.
I'm sure.
Anyway, I had to finish later, went to the conservatory and did all my study later. So yeah, and then I don't know what I was saying that. So yeah, so my music career was not very long. I just
No.
realized I didn't want to do, and I was not good enough to be in a good symphony orchestra or to be a soloist or something like that.
Yeah.
So I said, I think I'm going to stop that. And I
Yeah.
did.
Okay. Okay. So then, so when you started having children, then did you in a career or did you
Yeah,
like?
I did many things. So when we moved to the States, I got a job at a school as an English ESL
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. English is a
educator,
second language.
which my English was not very good, but they hired me. So I was there like the liaison person between families and the school and this kind of thing. So I did
Yeah.
that for a while. I taught. Then I started teaching Spanish in different universities in Syracuse. I taught at
Mm.
Syracuse University. We lived in Atlanta. I taught at Emory. So like little, like not full-time jobs, but
Right.
things like
Side
that.
jobs. Side
Yeah.
jobs.
And always following my husband because he always had a lot of big ideas and
Obviously. Yeah.
which involved moving.
Yeah.
So I never really had like a full-time career at anything. It was always
No.
like flowing around, which was, by the way, I don't regret it because my life was great, very happy. I mean, it
Yeah.
was hard moving and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it was exciting and we
Mm.
were a team, which I
Yeah.
think that's one of the problems that we have with that young people don't understand. I mean, I don't mean to sound old, but that it's everything in the marriage seems that it has to be 50-50. Do 50%, I do 50%. And that's such an error because it doesn't work like it's 100 and 100. And by the way, the more you give, the happier you're going to be in that relationship. Well, unless your spouse is a jerk. So then you need to, that's a different problem. In my experience is that's the truth. And so that's what I kind of did. I just went along. And when he was in school, he went to graduate school after we got married. So I worked full time and I did that for years. But then once he graduated, he was able to make more money than me. So then I just did more
Yeah.
part-time things. And when I started having kids, that was the best. So that I could just
Yeah.
continue doing little things and take care of the family.
Yeah. Nice. So how old were you when you had your last child?
My last child is adopted and is I was 40.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
started having kids really late.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are going to think that's not really late, but I don't regret anything in my life. I
Yep.
think the only thing that I regret is it's not having had more kids.
Not having more kids or
More
having kids
kids.
early? Wow.
Or earlier, later, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing that I think I would change.
Yeah. Why do you say that, Esther?
Well, first of all, my beliefs, my religion, but second of all, I realized that that is really a source of happiness and
Yeah.
meaning in your life.
Yeah.
And when I see families that have more kids, we have three. When I see families that have more kids, I see how much life,
Hmm.
how many good things happen in those interactions, in those dynamics, and how much love, how many
Hmm.
opportunities for love, the
Hmm.
opportunities for other things too. Okay, so how and I really regret it. That's something that if I could do it again, I would do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't know what it is about age. Yeah, like you say, I don't want to sound old, but it's sort of like when you start speaking like this, it's sort of like you can't help but to sound like old because it's like no one else gets it. And I mean, all we can keep on doing is talking about it more, I guess. But yeah, I think in the end, we just realize more and more it's always relationships and it's always relationships that's going to make you happy at the end of the day. That's all you have. Like the wealth, it's come and it's gone. The honor at one time you were, yeah, CEO of whoever. Now people don't really know your name that well. And yeah, you realize even the pleasures of life probably have led you the wrong direction because most of those pleasures do, whether that's gluttony or addictions or yeah, it's and so you just at the end of the day you just sit down, you realize the only thing that really makes me happy is being at home with my family. And I have one of Matthew's quotes from the Bible like on my as a sticky note on my computer for where your treasure is,
Right.
there your heart will also
Mm.
be. And it's so true. Like, so okay, you're having kids, you're enjoying life, author's off to the races in
Yeah.
his career. And what happens after that? Like, because I know what you're doing right now, which is studying theology, is really making an impact on your life as well. And a bunch of light bulb moments are happening for you from my understanding. So tell me more.
So, so yeah, let's see, where do I start? Well, like I said before, there was a point that I started meeting people that were serious about their faith, and
Yeah.
I could see something in them, like this interior joy and peace that was not really changed by circumstances, always or almost always present and constant. And I thought, wow, I want this. I really
Mhm.
want this. I don't have that. And I had everything. I had things in life. And I've always been a very happy person. I've never been like a melancholic or anything. But
Right.
I didn't have that interior like a sparkle, like something that I really wanted.
Yeah.
And that's how I got interested in with through relationships, through people that would talk to me about things. And then we put our kids to in a Catholic school, and that was just the big explosion. So I just
Yeah.
met all these people that were really serious, and I just thought I want to do this. I wanna have what they have. And that's when I little by little started practicing my faith. And then because I came from a place where I was kind of making fun of people that would practice their faith, and I was kind of judgmental about it. Then once I realized, look at your friend there. So once I realized that how great, what a treasure that was, I thought, well, I need to share this. I have to share this to people like me who are not able to see that yet. And that's
Yeah.
when I started doing talks and talking to other people and doing small talks in community places and community centers and so people that we would start talking about these issues. And as I was practicing my faith more and more, I realized I need to know more about this. There's so much to know, knowledge, and there's so much wealth of our faith is just unbelievable. And
Yeah.
so that's why I started studying. And so that has been great for me personally, but also for my talks and for my teaching. Because what I really want to do is I have the time to study these things
Yeah.
seriously, but most people don't. So what I like to do is to try to explain those truths in a
Right.
way that people just can understand without having to spend all these hours studying or reading, and also so that they can apply that into their lives.
Yeah.
And not only because I believe in holiness and that we can have that purpose in life, but also to help us go through life with this divine perspective that is going to help us with our decisions, with the way we treat people, with the way we do things. And I think that's very important. So that's why I started studying and I started doing my thing. And by the time I was a little bit more prepared, my kids were gone, and I was able to develop a little bit more I mean, I don't call it a profession. I just love doing it, and
It's your mission.
it's my mission. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
share that.
You
Yeah.
know, and so when you're describing your passion behind it, like it also made me realize too, like you're sort of doing preventative work in the sense that, I mean, you want to have that grounding and that foundation, that rooting within your life for like when the strong winds come as well, right? Because even though, like you say, you've had a good life and you know, you could say you're a happy person or whatever, like there's still something about a human that needs like something to fall back on when because we all suffer, like we all
Yeah.
suffer.
Yeah.
So
And it's not so much to fall back, but to see things as opportunities
so a
of,
different lens, a different
yeah.
lens. Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, I'm suffering so much. This is going to comfort. Yeah, there's some part of comfort and yeah, but also everything in life is an opportunity to love deeper and more
Yeah.
sacrificially. especially the bad things, especially the tragedies, especially the irritations. And so that when you change your perspective on things, it's just you see what's happening. Just everything, even the bad things that happen to you, even evil things are supposed to be used as instruments to bring goodness and to bring love. So
Yeah.
we just went through, like, I just went through a hard time with my family in Spain. Something's happening, and it happened during Lent. And I was thinking, and it was something that it really hurt me. It really hurt me personally, my heart, a series of circumstances and conversations. But I was thinking, well, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to do with this? Help
Yeah.
me get through this. Help me find ways to bring goodness from these, forgiveness, mercy, love, and
Yeah.
all these things. How do I do that? So instead of protecting myself from this bad thing, or just like going through it, like closing your eyes and going through it as fast as possible, it just no, just be there and just ask the spirit for guidance on what does that mean? What am I supposed to, this is not happening for, because yes, this happens for a reason. There's a purpose for this, and I don't want to miss the opportunity. I want to
Yeah.
be there and try to understand how to respond to that. Yeah, it's the best way to go through this suffering in life. I know some things are going to be harder than others, but let's start with irritations, little irritations of every day,
Mm.
because we all have those little things. So instead
Mhm.
of having that thing, oh, I don't want to do, I hate this, and okay, I'm going to try not to think about it. No, let's think about it.
Yeah.
What, how do I grow from this, and how do I love from
Yeah.
this irritation? So.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And as a therapist, sometimes it's hard for me to like. I can't say that I ever sat across from a staunch atheist or something like that. But like, if someone doesn't have that a hint of that foundation, it's really hard to explain to them, what you can do with your suffering. And I think a lot of people, like especially atheists, want to know the reason why it's happening. And actually, I think that's really a strong argument that they have against someone with a foundation of religion is that, like tell me how do you explain, the workings of Hitler, or how do you explain COVID, or how do you explain, well, I think sometimes just telling them, I can't really explain it, and I can't show you, even though there's some examples of the goods that came from different situations like that, but it's sort of, we might not even know in our lifetime, but it's not up to us to always understand it. It's more of accepting it, and then for me it's offering it up, like offering up my suffering to well, God, and sort of, I almost feel closer when I'm suffering because I know how much he suffered for us.
Yes.
So it's almost like I get to have a deeper connection with God. And but that doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you listen to a podcast here and an episode and kind of go, okay, okay, that's what I'll do next time. It's sort of, that's why they call a religion a practice, right? It's sort of doing little things every day that help
Yeah.
allow that to happen. Yeah.
Because even if you understand it rationally, when it's happening to you, you don't see it.
No.
You
No.
don't see it in the moment. So yeah, it takes a lot of practice, and sometimes we fail and we don't do what we want to do. But
Yeah.
it's good to understand it and just keep practicing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when something bad happens to me, if I keep thinking about it and I go on and on and on, it's just like it's overwhelming. And if I want to control the way I handle things, to me, it's so liberating to just bring it to my prayer time,
Yeah.
just and just say, okay, here it is. I bring this to you. Help me. I don't know how to do the, I know that you have a reason, whatever you want to have that conversation, but just bring it to the Lord, and just and listen, and just be open to whatever it is. And I assure you, whenever I do that, I don't find a solution to my problem, but I find a little bit more peace and a little bit more openness to it. And just that's a little step. And that's what I think we are supposed to do when things like this happen to us. And it's so great because I've been thinking a lot about, that's one of the things that I want to study a little bit. It's that when we say offer up something, a suffering, offer up. And so this is, it always, okay, I'm a very irritable person. That's something I'm working on it. But when I hear somebody saying that, I used to go like, this is so irritating. What does that mean? How do you do that? What does that mean? It's like, it sounds a little bit like, okay, too bad, like, but this is not about just like, I don't know if it's a bad word, like suck it up. Is that a bad word? Okay. No. So it's not about that. It's like, it makes me think of the offerings that the people used to bring to, kill the lamb, and like, just like Jesus was sacrificed. And so that was that suffering that in the animal and in Christ and in us, that we offer it as a giving back to the Lord, as which is something good. So we're offering bread. There's a bread offering, but there's also an offering of our suffering together with the good things. So we're offering everything. We're bringing everything back to the Lord, which goes back to what we were saying. Every single thing that happens to us is a gift, even if it's something we see as a bad thing, as a suffering. Everything is a gift that we bring back to the Lord in some way or another. And that's part of the liturgy of the Mass. When we bring the bread and the wine, so we are also bringing everything that happens to us to our Lord. And we only think when we're offering of good things, the bread and the wine and blah, blah, blah. But we're also need to think about all the tragedies in our lives, all the bad things, all the suffering. That's what the liturgy is so beautiful, because you can do this together as a church. We're doing that and we're bringing it. And when we do that, we're not trying to control everything. We become humble and we just let God work in us. And so that when you understand this, and it's so powerful. And so like, key of this is to be humble, not to try to fix everything too, and to admit that your relationship with the Lord, you are like nothing, and that everything you have is from the Lord. And so I'm going on and on, but the term offering up is just way more than being a stoic and just go through it, just do it. And no, it's the opposite. Like, stay humble, take it and ask for help and offer it up and bring it back, give it back. Yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but my microphone's not working, so whatever. Okay. So we'll get back on topic. I'm really glad you mentioned the word humble or humility, because I think that's where a lot of, like, that's a message that a lot of modern day women, mothers need to hear right now, I think, is because we're in this culture of doing it all. I think it's sort of, it's almost like taught it as sort of like some sort of feminine virtue that, you've now been graced with, is this ability to multitask and do it all. And I think with that, women have unfortunately become a little bit more of a micromanager in the home too, managing everybody, including their husbands and things like that. And I mean, you referenced it there a little bit earlier when you said, this idea of 50-50. Now that I'm working out of the home, we're doing it 50-50, because it used to be that a man would only work out of the home, but now it's a woman working out of the home. So since we're both at 9 to 5s, when it comes back to the house, we're all doing it 50-50. And that's just so not
loving.
Exactly. That's a great word.
Yeah. By the way, women have always worked. This is not a new thing. I think what has changed is that it's priorities. I think that because my mother used to tell me that my grandmother in southern France, she used to take care of the farm and the animals and fixing things around the house, and the husband used to do like something else. But the mothers worked all day. With my great grandmother worked all day with the kids, with the house, with the whatever. Then my great grandfather went to war, and then she took care of absolutely everything. So, and the women have always worked in different things.
Yeah.
Maybe it was not a paid job, but there was always work. I think what
Oh,
changed
yeah.
is the idea of the career, that making that career your priority. I think that's where the problem is. It's about the priorities. And I
Mm.
know that some people, of course, need to work to make a living, and there's nothing wrong with that. My mom had to work to make a living, and that's how I was raised, with her working. But I think the problem is when you put that as your priority, as the most important thing in your life is your career.
Yeah.
And then everything else. And by the way, you're going to be a mother. The time for a woman to be a mother is only like what, 15 years of your life, or like 20, like if you stretch it. But how many, like, I think these young women now are probably going to live into the 90s, no
Yeah.
problem, or
Yeah.
maybe more. I don't know what's going to happen. But this is a very short time in your life that you're going to have the opportunity to be a mother, especially.
Yeah.
And we are not teaching our young ladies, our young women, that fact. This is something that is going to happen in their lives. And by not talking about it when they're young, then they don't know that. And then
Yeah.
they go on in their careers, they keep going, and then they turn 40 and they cannot have kids anymore, or they are not interested in forming a family or getting married or anything, because that career is the priority number one. I think priority number one should always be related to relationship with others, with your family, with your husband, and with your children. I think if you want to be fulfilled in this life, which is how the closest thing to be happy is to be fulfilled, in my opinion. And so anyway, I think that we women have always worked. I think the problem is that now a lot of women, and even my generation, have prioritized career, and they have made that their number one, and they have forgotten that a big part of being a woman is to be a mother, to be
Yeah.
a mother, and to be a caretaker, and to be a wife. And that's a big problem, because then I know women that can do it all. I know a few that can have a family, take care of it, and have a very high profession, but most of us cannot do that. And we need to admit that. So the role model for women, for girls, for young girls, should always be a woman who is both a professional but a mother equally. Or I would say, in my opinion, motherhood is more important, because what can be more important than creating a human being, raising a human being, forming a human being into a future citizen of the world? I don't think there's anything more important. I don't think that any job can get close to it. So I think,
Yeah.
my opinion, the problem is priorities. What are we putting in first place? And by the way, I mean, if we don't talk about this with young girls, it's too late, because once they go to college, they have all these ideas about what their lives are going to be, and sooner or later they're going to be disappointed and unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we're seeing in with young women, that they have that part missing because they didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to say that, men's priority should be the family as well. We're,
I think men's priority should be the family too.
of
But
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't want to like make people like, or women listening here, it's sort of like, well, you know, I've invested a lot of money and time into my career, and my life is more than just the house or just the kids. No, no, I get, yeah, 100% that we're
Yeah,
not saying it's not that,
yeah,
obviously. Like, I mean, we have an intellect, we have something to give to the world. It's not that, but it's when either the man or the wife, man or the woman, choose their career over their family.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about
And
here.
also, the a man cannot get pregnant, cannot give birth, cannot nurse, and that bonding that happens the first months of life with a baby and the mother.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a necessary bonding. A father cannot do that in the same way. Biologically, all
right.
the animals, not just us, have the same thing. So the mother is essential in these first months of the year, if not, I would say the first couple of years, because of that, only the mother can do those things. Even if, I mean, sometimes, okay, the mother is the breadwinner and the father, okay, yeah, there are exceptions, but generally that's the way it works biologically and naturally. And that's what research talks about the importance of that bonding. Kids that are in, the bonding, especially at the beginning, is super important. My daughter was in an orphanage for a year, over a year and a few months. And so we talk about this with her a lot, and how for her a lot of these relationships sometimes are harder because she doesn't trust people. She has like this thing. So anyway, so these first months of life especially are so important, that I think like the fact that you would put that child, let's say, in daycare at 8 weeks, like sometimes it happens, just because not because you need to provide for that child, but because you prefer to
Yeah.
choose to have a career instead of taking care. Not only physically, emotionally, it's boring.
Yeah.
You're with a
Ex-
child the whole day. I understand all these things. I've been through it, but hey, nobody's saying it's easy. But it's so important,
Yeah.
super important, and it's the best thing that you can do in your life. And by the way, like I said before, in my opinion, when you sacrifice for others, especially your child,
Hmm.
sorry, that's fulfillment, happiness,
Yeah.
peace, because you're doing that. You might
Yeah.
feel bad when you see, I remember, so I had my kids, we were in Washington, D.C., and I was a stay-home mom. And we would go to, my husband was running a think tank, and we would go to these parties with all these lawyers and all these people in government, whatever. And everybody, oh, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, so I was the only one. No, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I remember I felt bad. I
Yeah.
felt like a loser. No, I don't have a job. I'm not a lawyer. I don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then I always felt so bad. And because I was young, I didn't understand. I knew intuitively that I was doing what I wanted to do and it was the right thing. But these people, whenever I would talk to these people, it would make me feel bad. But then I found out that some of these women were also very unhappy when they would see me doing that, and they didn't do that.
Yes.
Okay, Summer, nobody's gonna be happy.
No.
You do something, you're gonna feel bad because you're not doing the other thing. But in my experience, I'm an old lady now. I had my kids, I'm done. I started to do things professionally. And in my opinion, I don't regret that at all. It's the best thing I've done. And I'm so much happier for having done that. And I would do it again 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Spite
Yeah.
of everything.
Well, and like, I mean, yeah, I was just thinking about this morning, actually. I mean, we're living, I think, as a like majority of men and women live to about like whatever, an average of 85 years old. I mean, maybe women a little more, a little less, I don't know. But I mean, that's still, even if you decide to do what you're doing, and I don't know your age, but let's say you're 60, then you still have 25 years of doing, like, that's a career, like, so, but I like, yeah, I'm sure there's many women that are, 35 right now, maybe with an 8-month old in their arms, maybe listening to this and have dedicated 6 years of their life in university and are loving what they do, and their career requires them to leave the house at 7 a.m. And they're like, yeah, yeah, this sounds lovely, Luella and Esther, but it's not reality. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what to.
There's not an easy solution,
No,
but we should be talking about this.
exactly.
Because what we
Yeah.
cannot do is just not say and to keep telling girls in middle school that they can be like a man,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's not going to make them happy.
No, no.
And what I think what we should be telling them is like, look, there's going to be a time of your life that you're going to have the best opportunity of your life, which is to have a family and kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
raise your kids and have your kids. So maybe you should think about a profession that can be flexible around that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And instead
Mm-hmm.
of having something that it's going to make it impossible for you. So that's the kind of talk we should be doing with girls.
Yeah.
Young girls, not only there. And so how do you see your life? And how do you what's going to be the most important thing that you're going to do? And we should talk about these important issues and like talk about it and argue, and when somebody disagrees, it doesn't matter, it's all good, but
Mm-hmm.
talk about it, because we haven't talked about it. We have treated girls and boys the same way, but girls need to be really mothers for a period of time.
Yeah.
Men cannot do that.
No, no,
And
no, you're right. And it's such a gift to be a mother, right? Like, I mean, it's sort of like, why would we deny our biology like that, that we have? I mean, it's yeah, like, I mean, the connection that a mother has with their child, I mean, there's nothing more intimate than
yeah,
that. And I
and
think,
more fulfilling,
yes, yeah,
because if we're talking about happiness, like I said, women have those two sides, and they're both important. And
yeah,
intellectual and professional, whatever, and then the part of being a mother. And that doesn't
mm,
mean only to have your own kids, but also throughout life. That, like, now that my kids are older, I get a lot of young women that come to me for advice about things. That's part of being
mhm,
a mother too, to other women, to other men, whatever. Just always that role of, it's not just about success and in the world's view and this kind of thing, but to just have that part of you that is always open to take care of somebody else, to
yeah,
to sacrifice for somebody else.
yeah.
And I think that's key for fulfillment and for happiness, and not
So
just for women, for men too. But women, we have that feminine quality. It's necessary that we have to develop that part of us.
yeah, yeah. And I know, we have to embrace it. And it doesn't mean you're less intelligent or you're less hardworking or uh, yeah. I mean, so how, I know we're getting close to the end here. So how do you incorporate, well, first of all, maybe you should explain like what exactly are you studying right now? And then
Yeah.
how do you incorporate that into like your everyday life with your children and their spouses? And because you said your grandmother, like, I mean, so without being pushy, right?
Oh, it's very hard.
Yeah.
First, let me say something that
Okay.
you said something in it that made me think about when like you said, well, we have our intelligence and everything, but
Mm.
there's something more important than intelligence, which is wisdom.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if, let's say, yeah, but this girl is so intelligent, she should be like, I don't know, like a famous lawyer or whatever. Yeah, that's great, intelligence. But I see intelligence like something more of the world. But we
Yeah.
need to go deeper.
Yeah.
And what's the wise thing to do?
Ex
Intelligence is not going to make you happy, but
no.
wisdom is going to make you happy.
Yeah.
That's why we always have to go deeper. And life is not easy. I'm not saying that you cannot have a career. I'm not saying that,
Mhm.
because every person is different.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is there are certain questions that we should ask ourselves. And the earlier that we ask those questions in our lives, the better,
Hmm.
that are only we can answer.
Yeah.
We should not just follow along like what everybody's telling me, because people that the culture does not want you to be fulfilled and happy. That needs to be a work of your interior spirit and person, and you are the one who are deciding, you with your husband as a married couple, and your husband with you. And so together, like, have that kind of conversation of what is the wise thing to do. I'm going to have less money. I'm going to have less famous. I'm going to be less famous. I'm not going to use my intellect as much. I'm going to be bored. So, okay. So take all these things into consideration and just make a wise decision every year, every time that you have to decide these things. So that was the question about intelligence, because you know what, we don't have to use our intelligence. We think like we overvalue so many things in our world. One of them is intelligence.
You're
it's
so
great
right.
to be smart. And I'm the first one that when I was younger, person is so dumb, we can't talk. But you know what? That's overrated. Intelligence is overrated. Like good grades, all this is great, but that's not the most important thing. And sometimes, like, it's like beauty. Everybody wants to be beautiful and everybody wants to be smart. And those are not important things. That should not be our goal. Should be more about being a center person, fulfilling your needs and your nature and the way God made you, and go deeper into what's important, into what really matters. Anyway, so that made me think of that when you talk about intelligence.
That's a very that up. And so studying for my dissertation, and sorry for people who have heard this before, but right around the time where my kids were small, I was writing my dissertation and doing a lot of research. And one of the things I came across was children's language acquisition and how their brain develops much better if they're acquiring two languages. Like it makes sense, right? More neurons are flashing. And this is right around the time where we were making our choice between private Catholic schools and the public school system, which was French immersion, where I live. And so I said to my husband, the literature is showing, we need to have our kids in a dual language school system. And my husband was, pretty faith-based, and he's like, no. And I'm like, yes. And so who was the micromanager there, was me. And they did their elementary school in French immersion or whatever. But like, that is a great example of what you're saying. My kids aren't ruined. They're doing very well, and they've gone into the high school, private school or whatever. And I'm very fortunate because I actually became wise during the time. And then, so it's sort of like, it's book knowledge is not that valuable.
No, it is valuable, but it has its place.
It has its place. Yeah.
In a person's life, we need more than that.
Yeah.
We're more than that. We're more than intelligence.
Yes. Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you managing it with your children?
Well, I'm not taking care of any children. So I have two of them are married and they have kids. And my youngest, she's graduating from college this year. So so I have time to do a lot of things that I always wanted to do. Like study. I'm studying theology. I'm getting my master's. I'm almost done. It's sad because I really like it. And I don't want to do a PhD because I don't like writing, and there's a lot of writing during a
right.
I also like to study and teach. I love
you love teach.
I love to teach and just do my talks and go and be with people and just people and just and learn from them too. And so I do talks, and mostly in my area. Sometimes I travel, and I'm starting a radio show with Guadalupe Radio, which is like a Catholic station, and they have an app and all that stuff. I was supposed to start next week, but because of the Pope's and everything, so I'm doing things like that. I'm doing things with my husband too. We are doing things together a little bit too. He writes and talks about happiness and scientifically. And I bring the theological side to that too. And I take care of my grandkids when they allow me.
Yeah.
And because that's why we moved to this area, to be close to them. I'm so happy. I love my two daughters-in-law and my grandkids. It's wonderful. And we're having two on the way. So they're gonna be four, if God willing, at the end of the year. And I'm trying to be a good wife too.
Yeah.
I think that's my vocation. The most important one is to be a good wife.
Yeah.
And that's gonna
Yeah.
sound very like old school, but it is the truth. I think that's a source of my happiness, my comfort, my development, spiritual development. We try to do more things together at a spiritual level. We pray together, and we do retreats together, and we develop talks together about the important things. And we just really care about I know he cares a lot about helping younger generations and older generations to find more happiness in their lives. And that's what I feel very passionate about too. So it's great that we can finally work together. We could never do it before because of the kids and the whole thing.
Right.
But now I have more time. I don't like traveling. I hate traveling. But if I travel with him, it's different. It's more fun. So then we travel together. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Sounds wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect way to end it as well. So thank you. Yeah. And we'll link, your connections on social media and in the show notes, of course. But no, I think it's such a wonderful way to give back to the community, what you're doing right now. Like, I mean, you're enjoying what you're studying and you're not just keeping it to yourself. You're spreading the word. It's like a modern day evangelist or disciple.
I think we didn't talk about something that is very important. And I think to finish, just say the most important thing that you can do in your life is to love. If you do things without love, nothing is good. Nothing counts. Paul told us love. And that love is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. Love is a verb. The more you sacrifice, the more you love. And the more you love, the more fulfilled you're going to be. And the more it hurts to love, the better. And I'm serious. It sounds weird, and please try it. Sacrifice yourself for your loved ones. And that's going to be a source of joy and happiness in your life.
Yeah, no, it's very important, like you said, that you ended on that. You referenced it in the beginning, but like to really emphasize that again at the end, I think is super important. And you know what, guys, that means and let's say you're a woman, you're listening right now, if your husband dismisses you, or I mean, whatever little riff you might have in the kitchen, in the next few days, is rather than turn away, you turn towards him and you love him even more despite of that. And yeah, I like the way you ended, because you know what, like and maybe I just said this to a client yesterday. I said, maybe I'm extremely naive or delusional, but I feel that even a very, very unloving person, if they're beside someone who's, all they have is love, and they keep on loving that person despite their inadequacies, that the other person has to see that. Like, how can you not see that, and not want to become like that person?
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, even in a relationship where one is far, far, far away from their faith and, is into power, honor, pleasure, wealth, or whatever, I think it takes a lot of sacrifice on the other person's part.
Yeah. And also, I think that, okay, yes. So there are situations that it's hard to react with love.
Yeah.
I agree with you. If the other person sees that reaction, that doesn't mean that they're going to react like more love, but they're going to see that.
They're going to see it.
If two people don't want to fight, there's no fight. If one doesn't fight, nothing happens, no conflict. But then there's always a time afterwards that you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Sweetie, that thing that hurts so much.
Yeah.
Can you please blah, blah, blah. And because a lot of times you want to solve things in the moment, and that creates conflict. But in the moment, love. When you don't know what to do, love.
Yeah.
Love and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think that's the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. No, yeah, like, yeah, it's always the answer. It is always the answer.
Always
Yeah.
the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's been many love songs, that have been written like that, but these people know what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's for a reason. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, Esther.
Thank you, Luella. Thank you. This was very fun. Thank
It
you.
was fun. Okay. Everyone else, we'll see you next week. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember that you can watch the full episode on YouTube, where I plan to hang out the most. Your feedback and suggestions for future guests are incredibly valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to post a comment. You are an integral part of this journey.